comes anyhow?
Not in the meditation, afterwards.
Yeah, so
Yes, afterwards you're right. This is my point, that those two, you see, the meditation on emptiness belongs to the wisdom category. And then the love, compassion, generosity, patience, they belong to the method category. But they assist each other. They assist each other. When one is actively there, the other one lies dormant, but it still has an influence on the compassion. So after you rise from the meditative effort on emptiness, your compassion has grown. They're connected, they're conjoined. And the love and compassion, when they arise, when you really have strong compassion and love for others, you'll see a wisdom will arise. Okay? Even though when you have strong love and compassion, you don't reflect on emptiness. You cannot think of emptiness or perceive emptiness. But still, even though it lies dormant, the mind that realizes emptiness lies dormant, it is influenced, it's enhanced by your love and compassion. They enhance each other. Yeah? But you cannot do them simultaneously. According to the sutric system, you cannot do them simultaneously. And only a Buddha can both do them simultaneously. Okay? All right, so method and compassion. Sorry, method and wisdom. Those are the two wings. But it's during the wisdom practice, when you realize emptiness, or more specifically, when you realize emptiness directly, that you cut some of the obstructions. Okay? Obstructions. Obstructions to your two goals. What are the two goals? What are the two Buddhist goals?
Liberation and enlightenment.
Liberation and enlightenment. So, what are the obstructions to liberation?
Afflictive emotions.
What is the technical term? Obstructions. Something, something obstructions. Obstructions.
Afflictions, moral afflictions.
Something, something obstructions. X obstructions. What's the X? Pardon? Those of you know, please say.
Mental.
Maya, you know.
I don't remember the definition.
Ale. Obstructions. There's
It rhymes with what?
afflictive obstructions and cognitive obstructions. The two types of obstructions, okay? The obstructions to liberation. So liberation means to get rid of ignorance and all the other states of mind that they are induced by ignorance. Okay? So what does ignorance induce? It induces, I mean, the ignorance that perceives inherent existence. What other states of mind does it induce? Does it cause? Anger, very good. Attachment, yes.
Jealousy.
Jealousy,
Right.
hatred,
Hesitation.
arrogance, yes.
Attachment, did you say?
Yes, attachment, yes. So all these states of mind it induces. It induces also other wrong views, that there's a permanent I. That's a coarser kind of view. It's not actually, the viewing the self to be inherently existent is the deepest kind of misperception, but it induces the sense that the I is permanent, that there's no consequences to my actions and so forth, other wrong views. So these are all called afflictive obstructions. Afflictive obstructions. They are like the inner kind of part of the tree. They're not the innermost, but they're kind of pretty close to cutting the entire tree.
What's afflictive?
Afflictive because, sorry, delusions, afflictive obstructions in the sense like afflictive emotions is another word for delusions. So afflictive obstructions or delusional obstructions. These are kind of the delusions. So delusions are the obstructions to liberation. As long as we have delusions, we cannot be liberated. We cannot attain nirvana. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. As long as we have those, we cannot be liberated from, we cannot reach nirvana. So, when you reach nirvana, you have overcome, by realizing emptiness directly, you have overcome the afflictive obstructions, which means everything that held you back from being liberated. From becoming, the technical term for someone who is liberated, who has attained nirvana, is an arhat. An arhat, okay? So, someone who has been liberated is an arhat. So they have overcome the afflictive obstructions, right? So, which means this person can never have a misperception of reality anymore. This person can never have anger, attachment. These will never arise again. The seeds, which means the potential for those minds to arise again, have been irreversibly eliminated. Okay? These are the afflictive obstructions. Maya, do you have a question? Looks like you've got a question mark on your face.
When you realize emptiness directly for the first time,
Yes.
can anger still arise?
Mm-hmm. When you realize emptiness for the first time, you just get rid of the intellectually acquired, in this lifetime kind of acquired delusions. And then you have to go on. That's only on the path of seeing.
So I actually have to reach nirvana to get rid of it. Or when is the point where the seeds are not activated anymore?
That's when you become an arhat. When you reach nirvana. Okay? When you reach nirvana. So, there's two possibilities. Either you aim for just attaining nirvana, okay? Just want to go to a tree of nirvana or liberation. Or you want to go even further to become a Buddha. Okay? So either you just want to become liberated, or you want to even go further to become a Buddha. If you, from the beginning, only aim to become liberated, you go through the Hinayana path. Okay? It's called the Hinayana path, because that's your goal. That's where you want to go. You don't want to go further. If you want to become a Buddha, you also become liberated, but you now have entered the Mahayana path, which means you don't go through the Hinayana path, where you basically go to Hinayana and you go to liberation and you stay there for some time. If you want to become a Buddha, you become liberated in the process, but you go all the way. You very quickly move on to remove more than the afflictive obstructions. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's like whether you want to become a Buddha or you just want to become liberated, you all become liberated first. Okay, an arhat becomes liberated. That's the main goal of an arhat. Like someone, a Hinayana practitioner, someone who reaches for the Hinayana goal of just liberation. That person becomes, it's called Hinayana because it's the foundation. It's the foundation for everything else. So you reach the goal of the foundational goal, the first kind of goal, that is self-liberation or nirvana. Okay, so that's when you use the foundational vehicle, or the fundamental vehicle, or the Hinayana vehicle to get there. But you can also take the Mahayana vehicle, which also takes you there, but it takes you straight away further to Buddhahood. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So, you both reach liberation, but the person who follows the Mahayana vehicle wants to go further. Right from the beginning, they had a different goal, so they go all the way to enlightenment. And to become enlightened, it's not enough to get rid of the afflictive obstructions. Okay? So, a bodhisattva also at some point gets rid of the afflictive obstructions. But since they aim for Buddhahood, they need to get rid of something more. What is it that they get rid of? Which obstructions do they now, on top of that, get rid of?
Knowledge obstructions.
Cognitive obstructions, absolutely. The cognitive obstructions. What are cognitive obstructions? If you got rid of ignorance, if you got rid of any kind of delusion, and this
limited capacity of the brain.
The seeds.
if you just replace the word brain for another word, mind. But never mind. Okay, we use it interchangeably, so never mind. Okay, so the limited, yes. But what is that exactly? What is it exactly that keeps us from being omniscient? The residues, the imprints. Okay, which means we've had ignorance, we've had misperceptions since beginning this time. It's been with us. And it leaves a residue. Every time that mind becomes manifest, it leaves some residue. There's some imprint left in the mind. Okay? So, it's a little bit like if you have garlic in a vessel. That's the very Tibetan example. But it works because this country uses a lot of garlic, so everyone is familiar with garlic. Okay? So, garlic in a vessel. If you have garlic in the vessel, as long as you have garlic in there, every time you put it in there, the vessel is kind of takes on the smell of the garlic. Let's think of a wooden vessel. Wooden vessels are best examples. So every time you add garlic, okay, there's garlic there. Anyway, we've had garlic for many years. We've had it in there. The garlic, the smell of it stains the wooden vessel. So even though you remove the garlic, the smell is still left. So likewise, with the ignorance, with the afflictions, you have these the misperceptions of reality, and even though they're gone, if you have no misperception of reality anymore, you still have those imprints. So I think of it sometimes as the mind being like a clear crystal ball that can perceive all phenomena. We all have that mind already, but temporarily it's obscured by a thick layer of delusions. Okay, that's why in some tradition it is said we're already Buddhas, because that crystal clear mind we have already, except it's kind of obstructed. it's obscured. And so the first are the afflictive obstructions. That's the outer layer of ignorance, anger, hatred, and so forth. All that is totally around us. That's why we're so narrow-minded, right? That crystal clear kind of, it can actually perceive all phenomena the way they are. But we can't do that because we have that layer of ignorance and so forth on top of it. And then we get rid of that, the afflictive obscurations. And then there's still a smear, a kind of leftover smear. It's not as coarse as the ignorance and the anger and so forth, but there's still some smear. It does not allow for the mind to know all phenomena, right? Because it's still not able to reflect all phenomena. Like a crystal clear, a clear crystal can reflect anything, but if there's some smear on top of it, it can't do that. Okay, it becomes transparent. This crystal clear, if it's clear of the smear. So become transparent means you know all phenomena, but with the smear you can't. So you need to get rid of the residue of ignorance, the imprints of it. And these imprints, we have these imprints, so even you become liberated from samsara, you've reached nirvana, you're not able to perceive the ultimate truth and the conventional truth at the same time. When you take to mind, when the ultimate truth appears, the conventional doesn't, and vice versa. Okay, you cannot have both. That's why if you're a meditator, if you're a bodhisattva, you can only, when you arise out of a meditation, you can communicate with people, be around them, talk to them, have love, compassion, and so forth. And then when you go into the meditation, and at that time you cannot realize emptiness directly. And then to realize emptiness directly, you have to let go of all that, shut down your senses basically, and just go into that. That's all you perceive, just the emptiness. Yeah? So these are the obstructions, the residue that is still left there. It's because of the imprints of ignorance, because of the stains of ignorance, that residue, and all the other delusions. Is that even though you become self-liberated, there's still other obstructions that keep you from utilizing your full potential. Okay? So these are called the cognitive obstructions because they keep you from cognizing all phenomena, from being omniscient. So to become a Buddha, you want to be omniscient because we talk about becoming a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. What does that actually mean? To remove everyone's suffering? No, we can't do that. The best thing would be, and of course people ask me a lot, like, what would be the best for someone? How would I be of benefit the most to another person? But the most benefit is to teach through our own example and to teach another person according to what they need. Now, if I have no idea what the person needs, how can I teach? I have no idea. There's so many teachings, so many antidotes to so many delusions. What do I know which delusion exactly they should tackle first? Right? What do I know? I have no idea. I can only guess blindly. Okay? Tell them some practice. I have no idea. So as you progress, a bodhisattva reaches already some levels of clairvoyance. So some highly evolved lamas have already levels of clairvoyance. If they're not enlightened yet, if they're still bodhisattvas, they have certain. So that's helpful. But the best would be a Buddha who knows exactly where the person is coming from, what they like, what they need, how they can come to become enlightened the fastest possible. And then you give instructions accordingly. Perfect. Right? And you have to still do it, but it's the best medicine you could get. So they prescribe a medicine. We still have to take the medicine. We still have to do the therapy. Right? It's not like the doctor takes the medicine for us. No. Still have to still take it, but we know the best medicine. We've been given the best therapy. The Buddha is the best therapist. Okay. But if you understand this difference between the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations. So, absolutely not. You don't understand the difference?
No, I have to practice. There's no way I can understand it verbally.
Oh yeah, okay. Intellectual understanding, okay, it's never the same as the actual experience of that. But if you just have an intellectual kind of, a gross kind of idea, okay, afflictive obscurations are those, or obstructions are those, cognitive are those. This we need for today's lesson, so that's why I've explained it. Okay, yeah. All right, so this, I hope is clear.
For clarification, when you speak about this alternation between going into this meditative state, which
Realizing emptiness directly?
and then comes out.
Yeah.
Again, because I come from a different view, but so it sounds to me very strange because first, is it a non-conceptual mind, the one that absorbs?
Realize emptiness directly, yes.
It's a non-conceptual mind.
Yes.
I know that it is said, even in the Sutra teaching, that to really have the sixth perfection, for perfection to be a perfection, it has to be realization beyond the three spheres of subject, object, and the action itself. So if you imagine this state of mind, then you come out of it.
You can't do them together.
Yeah, which for me sounds
Okay, Shuni,
doesn't make sense.
I know what you're
How can
saying.
you benefit others?
Okay, Shuni, let me just explain. I think your question, I understand your question. All right, I think you're right. You're right. First of all, now we both agree I'm talking about Sutra, not about Tantra. But you're definitely right. And Shuni, what she's saying is, if I say that you realize emptiness directly, right, but I have to come out of it to do other things, that seems to contradict this idea that I can practice the six perfections together. In subject, in agent, subject, object, and action. In that relationship. What does that exactly mean? Okay, let me explain you. Okay, this is actually an important point, and I'm glad she brings it up. What she talks about is when you practice the six perfections, you should practice, so which are the perfection of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. When you practice those, you should practice them in combination. What does that mean, realistically? How does that practically make sense? Let's give the example of practicing generosity. And I could give different examples, but let's say you give to someone who needs, like with a mind of wants to give. You see, so that mind that wants to give, conjoined with bodhicitta, right? The mind made this act of giving become the cause for myself to become a Buddha, to be able to lead all sentient beings to become enlightened. That is first the practice of the perfection of generosity. The wish to give conjoined with that mind of bodhicitta, wanting to become a Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. Then, at the same time, there's also, of course, the wish to benefit that person. May this benefit this person. Okay, not just now, but also in the future. Okay, I mean, it's not really separate from my further thought, but to just conceptually separate it out. That's the practice of morality. Okay? The next practice would be the practice of patience. I mean, you know, I'm patient at the time when I give. I'm not getting upset when they go, Madam, please give me, you know, like the whole, Madam, 1 rupee, please, 1 rupee, please, buka, whatever. You know, you don't get impatient. You know, have great patience to teach you to give. That's the practice of patience. At the same time, diligence. What is diligence? Diligence is joy in accumulating virtue. Joy in, so if you do something, if there's joy, you continue doing it. You're diligent about it. So there's joy in the giving. Then there is concentration too. There's concentration. You're focused on it. You're not all over the place. You're concentrated. Perfection of concentration. The practice of the perfection of concentration. And then you reflect. Also, you reflect upon myself. I lack inherent existence. The person receiving the object lacks inherent existence. The object I'm giving lacks inherent existence. And the act of giving also doesn't exist inherently. So you try and combine all those together and you give. Now with the last one, this is where Shuni's question comes in. Wow, you can't do that all together.
No,
but we're not doing it...
It's only a perfection when you do it in that state of mind, which is beyond the duality of subject, object, and the act itself.
Well, as a bodhisattva, you can't do it directly. You cannot realize it directly that, you know, all this, but you can do it conceptually. Just remind yourself, okay, they don't, right? You can do that. So therefore, a bodhisattva can only practice the perfection, the six perfections, has not perfected them. So a Buddha would do all six of them together. Realize the emptiness directly, plus give, you know, benefit, da-da-da-da-da. You see, that's why we talk about the six perfections. A bodhisattva does not have the six perfections. The bodhisattva practices the six perfections, right? So that is according to my understanding. There may be discrepancy according to the scriptures that you've taught. I don't know. There sometimes is because there's different people. But basically that's my understanding here. So I think it doesn't contradict it because there's still the perfection of all six together. But it's important you bring it up. This is actually a very important point that's stressed a lot when we study. Those six together. So even if we can do it now already, even we don't call ourselves bodhisattvas, we may not be bodhisattvas. I mean, you may not be, I don't know. So you could still, when you give, have those six together and make your practice so effective. right? But this is something where, anyway, you think of a few moments in time, and you don't do all 6 together simultaneously, right? Okay, let me just give. It may benefit them. And okay, maybe the joy is there at the same time. But then you also take time to reflect. So it's like over a period, you do all 6 together. Does that make sense? Not exactly in the same moment, but one after the other. Okay. Anyway. Pardon?
Please, can I ask you a question?
Please, you can, yeah.
Because I wanted it yesterday, but it keeps coming up.
Okay.
So it's not something I think that, you know.
Okay.
When you're talking all the time about emptiness, the lack of inherent
Existence.
does that, I think it does, but I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Doesn't that mean, in fact and logically, that everything then is interconnected because it is dependent?
Yes.
But if we go to upaya, yes, the skillful method,
Okay.
and we do exactly what you're talking about. You know, we want to practice generosity.
Yeah.
It seems to me that for a human being,
Yeah.
it is so much more encouraging, provides motivation, and explanatory as a tool, as an instrument, that I understand my existence, convention, all that, and everything around me, especially sentient beings, and especially human beings, are part of me, are connected to me. They are interesting, yes?
Right,
you
okay.
cannot, you can't, you cannot. So, if I take the understanding in its form as interconnectedness,
Right.
it seems to me a much easier, clearer way of working in the world than empty of inherent existence.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Okay. But this is a course on the true truth. This is why I emphasize this. She's absolutely right. If we had a course that dealt more with dependent arising, if we had a course that dealt more with love, especially exchanging self for others, I would stress that more. But I cannot do everything at the same time. You're absolutely right. For me personally, to have to generate more, concern for others, I don't necessarily think, oh, the lack of inherent existence, better. I mean, it's like, I'm connected to them. I put myself into their shoes. Yeah, like, oh my God, what would it feel like? I would never know exactly what they feel, but I can get a sense for it. And then it's like, naturally, oh, I wish they were free of that suffering. That's because I can do that, because I'm not really inherently separate from them. I'm interconnected to them, but they don't exclude each other. Why am I interconnected? Because it lacks inherent existence. So really, I can't separate them, because I can put myself into the other person's shoe, because we're not inherently different.
Absolutely.
Right? But I have to explain that. If I don't explain that why we're not inherently different, it's very difficult to understand dependent arising. Right?
So in other words, you think conceptually,
Yeah.
one must begin with emptiness.
Well, it helps, because dependent arising only makes sense if first you hear not inherently. If you really think I'm inherently existent, then you and I are inherently different. I cannot put myself into your shoes. Right? It helps to explain emptiness.
Yes, yes.
But of course, you see, I've explained it in the beginning. First emptiness and right away dependent arising. But I didn't go into all these details. We're all interconnected, there's a lot of more talk it's like, I impute I on the basis of this. I can include other people too. And I talked about this during other classes where I was more emphasis on that. No. Just if you do remember, then if you bring that in, because of course, it's like receiving teachings. Honestly, I know there's great interest on emptiness in Israel and less interest on other topics. But that's very incomplete, because they're all part of the big puzzle. If you don't study about everything, you always have holes in the puzzle. If you don't study about refuge, don't study about the chaos, you don't study about, I don't know what other topics, the Four Noble Truths. Oh, that's easy, I've understood. Four Noble Truths are extremely deep, right? And this Holiness talks about them over and over again. You see the highest Lama, the highest Geshes to come to those teachings. Why? Because there's so many different levels. So we should not have that kind of, oh, that I like, that I don't. I always listen to this, I never listen, because the whole picture is important. So like, I'm not saying that you're doing that, no, but I'm saying this course is of course only limited. And I'm glad you bring it up because it reminds us again, interconnectedness is very important. But just in general, it just kind of reminded me of saying that at some point, that we should not be selective, like saying, oh, I only want to hear about this. This interests me, the rest doesn't.
Exactly.
Because otherwise we never understand, we can never go deep enough to understand the whole connection. That's very important. Yeah? And I've heard there are certain topics in Israel that just don't work that well. But it's a problem. I know it's the challenge of emptiness, but you're missing something. It's like when you take medicine, you have a whole package of medicine, but you prefer the pink one that tastes really good. Right? The therapy is always incomplete. Anyway, that's just at the side. Nothing to do with what you said, it's just connected to that.
But isn't that, just add one more thing.
Oh, the last thing,
The whole
okay.
thing about Buddhism is,
Yes.
in fact, it is not a course in separate philosophical ideas. It is a way of life. It is a spiritual path. It is a religion in that sense, because it answers the deepest.
Yes, it does. It does all that, but it's very complicated. A lot of parts, because our mind is so complicated, there's a lot to it. Right? Yes. Yes.
Thank
Okay.
Excuse me, the afflicted obstructions
Okay.
include sense consciousness?
No, no sense consciousness. Sense consciousnesses are never obstructions.
Are never obstructions?
No, because there's no ignorance that's a sense consciousness. There's no anger that is a sense consciousness. There is no imprint that is a sense consciousness.
So the way like you taste something and you taste it wrongly, it's a mental...
Yes, those wrong consciousnesses, well, okay, if you mean like a wrong consciousness, it's still not called in obstructions because there's no antidote as such to them. So it's really like they just disappear on their own. But they're not really considered obstructions as such. Yeah, I don't think so.
Nothing in the senses.
No, because it's the mental consciousness that you develop and they get rid of all the mental kind of problems, and as a side effect they get rid of the obstruction, the wrong sense consciousness. So it's really the mental that's most important. Okay.
Can you say again the two obstructions?
I will again when I get there. I will again when I get there. So I just wanted to give you that explanation. You rest when I give you some other explanations.
Maybe you still have the picture from that you draw about the mountain.
Oh, I didn't want to get into the cable cars, but okay.
No, you don't have
No, you're right.
It might help.
Okay. Oh, take off? Okay.
Well, if it's not behind.
No, it's not there. I mean, I gave an example before about how you first reach liberation and then you go even higher up. And the example I gave was that of going up a mountain and taking a cable car to get there. So there's the cable car that's the Hinayana, and there's the cable car that's the Mahayana cable car. All right. So you go up to one level that's like the liberation. You take that cable car, but you can take a different cable car that briefly stops there and then goes on. Okay, so it's actually, I mean, for me that this example kind of works because you can get a sense that you need to reach one level to go all the way up. But when you take the Hinayana cable car, the Hinayana vehicle, you stop there. You take a long stop over. You stay in that state for quite a while, and then eventually you take another cable car, the Mahayana cable car. You get into that Mahayana cable car and go into become a fully enlightened Buddha. Okay? So there was a drawing on here, but anyway, it's disappeared. But if you just get the sense of it, the way I just described it, it kind of explains that. And so what keeps the Hinayana cable car, what you need to get rid of to get to the first level of the mountain is the afflictive obstructions, and then to get all the way to the top of the mountain is the cognitive obstructions. Okay? So, but anyway, what we got to yesterday was basically the idea that an ultimate truth can be, the ultimate and the conventional truth, the basis of division is object of knowledge. To show that any object of knowledge is either a conventional truth or an ultimate truth. And to stress the fact that both can be known. They can be known even by us. Not by our ordinary minds, right? As he was saying yesterday, it has to be a special mind. But nevertheless, they can be known. They're objects of knowledge. Okay. And so, there is an explanation in here, and I've gone into this a little bit. Why do some scholars think that emptiness cannot be known? Ultimate truth cannot be known. I've given an explanation here. It's a little complicated, but the idea is, if I have a direct perception of reality, I realize the emptiness of this truck. Okay? What do I look for? I search for an inherently existent truck. What I find is the absence of an inherently existent truck. Okay? Some people have the idea, oh well, if I were to find an inherently existent truck, if that ultimate mind, ultimate analysis, that ultimate mind were to find, hypothetically, an inherently existent truck, the truck would have to exist inherently. Right? So some people think, therefore, oh, whatever an ultimate analysis finds must be inherently existent. Because if for some reason, if I look for an inherently existent truck and I find an inherently existent truck, it must be inherently existent. Therefore they say, if my mind if my mind, okay, what does it look for? It looks for an inherently existent truck. What does it find? The absence of an inherently existent truck. Therefore some people say, if you find with an ultimate analysis the lack of inherently existent truck, then if you find the ultimate truth of the truck, in other words, then the ultimate truth of the truck must exist inherently, because it's found by an ultimate analysis. But there's a difference, because I did not look for the emptiness, the ultimate truth of the truck. I looked for the inherently existent ultimate, let me say that. I did not look for the emptiness of the truck, I looked for the truck. Does that make sense? I looked for an inherently existent truck. I did not, and what did I find? The emptiness of that truck. Okay, so therefore, if I looked for the inherently existent, if you lose me, please, then I'll make a drawing. It's easier then. If my ultimate analysis looked for an ultimate truth of the truck, and it were to find an ultimate truth of the truck, the ultimate truth of the truck would have to exist inherently. But when I look for the ultimate truth of the truck with an ultimate analysis, I find the emptiness of the ultimate truth of the truck.
In other words, you don't find it.
Yeah, I don't find it. I find only the absence. So I look, the ultimate analysis, when it looks for the emptiness of the truck, it actually looks for an inherently existent emptiness of the truck. And it finds the lack of inherent existence of the emptiness of the truck. Okay? Does anyone not understand this? You can still make a drawing.
Yes.
You understood? No. Okay.
So,
yes.
In the emptiness notion, there is also a notion of lack.
Yes. Yes, it's just a lack of something.
So it's not emptiness, it's a lack.
Well, emptiness is a lack. It's just a name given to a lack. I mean, it's a positive name given to a lack, almost. Yeah, it's just... Okay. What does the ultimate analysis look for? When it realizes the emptiness of the truck. Emptiness of truck. What does it search for? Searches for inherent existence of truck. What does it find? It finds, since it doesn't find the inherent existence of the truck, right? It finds the absence. It's the same thing. Saying it does not find the inherent existence of the truck is the same as saying it finds the absence of the inherent existence of the truck. Okay? Finds lack of inherent existence of truck. All right. So there's no contradiction. It doesn't mean that the emptiness of the truck exists inherently, because I've not been searching for the inherent existence of the emptiness of the truck. Okay? I've been searching for the inherent existence of the truck. That's what I've been looking for. What do I find? I find the absence of the inherent existence of the truck, which is emptiness. Just another word for saying there's an absence. Emptiness seems to imply something positive, but it's not. It's something negative. It's just a lack. I find the absence. It's like saying I don't find the inherent existence, therefore I find the lack of the inherent existence. Right? If I say I lose my pen in the room, if I don't find it, what I find is the absence of my lack in the room. It's just a different way of saying.
It's different because when you find the emptiness...
I explain it. Can you just leave it, please? I have to now move on, right? Okay, I have to move on now. So now, all right, the emptiness of the truck. What I find is the emptiness of the truck. That's what I find. I don't find the truck. But someone may say, if you find the emptiness of the truck, then that mind finds something. Which means the emptiness of the truck has to exist inherently because it's found by an ultimate analysis. Right? If something is found by an ultimate analysis, if it's found, if that's realized, if it's known, if you know emptiness, if that mind knows emptiness, it means the emptiness has to really exist truly because it's known by an ultimate, by that mind. Okay? But that's not the case. Because if I don't find the emptiness of the truck because I looked for the emptiness of the truck. I looked for the truck. I looked for the inherently existent truck. And what I find is the lack of inherent existence of the truck. Okay? If I looked for the inherent existence of the emptiness of the truck, I would not find the emptiness of the truck. I would find the emptiness of the truck. Okay. Some people have not understood. I know they haven't. But maybe the people who have understood, who nodded now, please you could explain it. This is where this comes from. But this is really, really important. This idea is really important. Because we get a sense that something is found, something positive is there. And right away we get confused.
Can you make something, emptiness of something which is negative?
Yes. The lack of inherent existence of no elephant on my table. Okay. Or the emptiness of the emptiness. The emptiness of the emptiness. Okay. Can it wait?
Just to add a word, isn't that reification? That's wrong.
No, it's not reification. It's not reification. So someone, keep that question, don't forget it, and work on it and ask someone else. It's not reification. You don't reify. Pardon?
You should not. That's a mistake.
Well, you don't reify. You don't reify. You don't reify. But never mind. For now, I cannot explain this. We have so much else to go through. But it's great. I mean, if you have questions, it's very good. If you leave this course with questions, you will not leave it at that. If you feel you've understood everything, you'll probably just drop it. So questions are good. An incentive to learn more. Okay? I told you, I'm not going to water it down. It's going to be the whole tough material. So. Okay, and honestly, if I learned anything in those 16 years, was to be patient with what I don't understand. You know how many classes I went through when I didn't understand anything for an hour and a half? And I listened to the recordings and it took me 8 hours to get through it? Seriously. So, it just takes time. Lifetimes. Yes. Absolutely. But let's go on because I want to finish this. So at least you get some idea. From then you can move on further. You have some foundation. Okay. If this is somehow clear. Now, forget about everything you don't know. Just drop it. Because otherwise, don't carry it to the next chapter. Just drop it. Okay, let's go on. Blank slate. Next topic, the two truths. How are they related? How are the two truths related? So, this is again, next confusion. The Buddha taught that all phenomena have two natures, or entities. All phenomena have two natures or entities. So whatever exists has two natures or two entities. Conventional truth and ultimate truth. So whatever exists possesses somehow those two. While phenomena do not have inherently existent natures, they all have natures in order to exist. Natures, characteristics, entities. So, a single phenomenon, such as a truck, has a conventional and an ultimate truth. Or a conventional and an ultimate nature. What are they? Okay, but that doesn't mean that the car is both. The car is not both. It has both natures, but it's not both a conventional and an ultimate truth. Somehow you may think, oh, it's a conventional truth from the point of view of an ordinary person and an ultimate truth from the point of view of an Arya being, of someone who realizes emptiness directly. No. The truck is only one of them. But it has both. The car has a nature of a conventional truth because it is a conventional truth. Right? I have the nature of a person because I am a person. Does that make sense? I have the nature of a person because I am a person. Okay. So the truck has the nature of a conventional truth because it is a conventional truth. And the truck has the nature of an ultimate truth because it possesses the characteristic or the attribute of being empty of inherent existence. It has that characteristic. Okay? So I have the characteristic of, for example, the attribute of having a body. I'm not the body. Okay? But I have a body. So I have the nature of being a person because I am a person. I have the nature of a body. I mean, I have a nature of a body because I have a body. Yeah? I'm not a body. So likewise, the truck has the nature of a conventional truth because it is a conventional truth, and it has the nature of an ultimate truth because it has the characteristic, the attribute of lacking inherent existence. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. All right.
Excuse me?
But the two truths are of one nature. The conventional truth, the truck, and its ultimate truth are of one nature. They're not the same, but they're not totally unrelated. For example, my example is my hand and my entire body. My hand is a part of my body, right? They are related. They are of one nature. They're not the same. My body is not my hand is not my body. But they're not totally separate either. So that's another way of saying they are of one nature. Right? If my hand gets sick, my body gets sick. Right? They're very much connected to each other in a very direct way. Of course, all phenomena are connected, but not in such direct way. If I get sick, Miri doesn't have to get sick. So we're not connected, we're not one nature. So, you see, there's a way in which phenomena are not the same, but they can still be of one nature, which means if something happens to one, something else happens to the other. If the truck disappears, the ultimate truth of the truck disappears. Right? If the ultimate truth of the truck disappears. I mean, one exists only because the other one exists. If I don't exist, Miri still can exist. And if Miri becomes non-existence, I can still continue to exist. Right? Leora, was there anything important?
Just a mistake in the Hebrew translation.
Please.
בחוברת שחילקנו, עמוד 16, שורה 5. כלומר שהמכונית היא אמת מוסכמת ולא מוחלטת. מנקודת המבט של יצור רגיל, ואמת מוחלטת מנקודת המבט של אריה.